Week 16 of the fantasy football season. Here's a few kickers I have as sleepers this week. The first kicker, Andy Brogowis of the New England Patriots. Brogowis, he's out there in tons of fantasy leagues in 85%, and he's having a good season. And obviously on one of the more high-powered offenses in all the league, where opportunities are going to be there pretty much weekly. So the last 3 out of 4 games, double-digit fantasy points. Week 11 versus the Jets, 10. Week 12 at Cincinnati, 17. Week 13 versus the Giants, 15. And Week 15 versus the Bills, 7 fantasy points. So this week, a slam dunk matchup on paper at the Baltimore Ravens. Give up the 4th most fantasy points to kickers on the season. And like I said, Brogowis, he's pretty much been automatic for this Patriot team. And this week, I think Baltimore, they're going to bend but don't break at times in this one. And the opportunities will be there for Brogowis. So this week, he's definitely a good sleeper option for fantasy owners. Next kicker, Eddie Pinheiro of the San Francisco 49ers. Eddie Pinheiro, he's been great this season in the games he's played for San Francisco. He's out there in 76% of fantasy leagues. In every game he's played in besides 3, he's had double-digit fantasy points. Going back to week 2 where they signed him was Eddie Pinheiro. So week 15 he came back versus Tennessee and he had a big game, 14 fantasy points in that one with 37-yarder, 39-yarder, 43-yarder, and 4 extra points. So this week a good matchup at the Indianapolis Colts. Give up the 9th most fantasy points to kickers on the season. And obviously it's an indoor game as well, where that's really going to help Eddie Pinheiro out in this one, not having to deal with the outside elements, especially at the end of the season where on the East Coast especially it's cold weather and bad kicking conditions. So this week at the Colts, I think Pinheiro, he's going to go out there, he's going to get his opportunities, and this Niner offense is stalled out at times in the red zone, and I think he's a good sleeper option this week. And the final kicker, Chad Ryland of the Arizona Cardinals. Chad Ryland, he did 95% of fantasy leagues, and he's been a solid kicker at times this season is Ryland. And this week, he's a good option with a good matchup with the Falcons coming in. Give up the 5th most fantasy points to kickers on the season. So like I said, Ryland, he's been slumping a little bit of late. Week 13 at Tampa Bay, 7. Week 14 versus the Rams, 5. And Week 15 in a tough matchup at Houston, 2 fantasy points. But this week, good matchup on paper. Even though I know this Arizona Cardinal team, they're losing all these ball games, but they're scoring a lot of touchdowns in garbage time and stuff, with Jacoby Brissett really airing that football out. But Ryland this week, back home indoors with a good matchup on paper, I think is a decent sleeper option this week. So that's a few kickers I have as sleepers for Week 16 of the fantasy football season.